Hello and good morning, everyone. Good Monday morning. It is February the 6th, and welcome to this, your weekly energetic reading. For those of you who are new here and those of you who are coming back, welcome. I am recording this from Red Deer, Alberta. I am currently traveling. So here's something interesting. When I pull my cards out every Monday in order to be able to do this reading, I pull one card from each deck for myself before I get started with your reading. And I just thought I'd share something with you because it's fascinating to me how accurate the cards can actually be. So this morning, as I was mixing up the Osho Zen deck, this is the card that I got for myself. This is the card of travel. And as you can see from my current background, I am in fact traveling right now. So just absolutely fascinating. So I thought I'd share that with you. All right. So a couple of little housekeeping pieces. These are general readings. So some of it may resonate with you, some of it may not. If it doesn't resonate with you, it just means that the timing isn't quite right for you. It's intended for someone else. So just take it with a grain of salt. Also, speaking of grains of salt, I have to do this every time. Here's my disclaimers. I am not a doctor. I am not a lawyer. I am not a certified financial advisor. And therefore, anything that you see or hear in this video that you may construe as specific advice to you, please keep in mind you have free will. Please make decisions and choices according to you and take full responsibility for your own actions. Okay. All right. For those of you who are returning, there are timestamps down below. Please check the timestamps. Also, because I'm in a public forum, you may hear some noises today. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it. I am in the lobby of a hotel. All right. For those of you who are new here, let me explain how this works. Each Monday, I jump online and I make a video. And what I do is I ask you to go into a light meditative state, and I will then present 3 rocks, gems, or trinkets to you. And I ask you to decide which one you are intuitively drawn towards, and whichever one you are intuitively drawn towards, that will be the deck from which I pull your cards this week. The cards that I pull cards that indicate your dominant energy this week, energies that are influencing you, as well as a shadow energy. This is usually represented by a card from the bottom of the deck, although occasionally I get called to yank a card out of the middle. And the shadow energy is something that's bubbling or brewing just below the surface, something that you may not be aware of, but you probably should be paying attention to this week. All right. Okay. Let's get started with the meditative portion of the video. If you wouldn't mind just finding a quiet place, take a few deep breaths. You can either leave your eyes open or softly close your eyes. Just listen to the sound of my voice. Take a deep breath in and release. And as you release your breath, allow your muscles to relax. We're going to do this 2 more times. Take a deep breath in. And as you release, allow your muscles to relax. Allow all of the tensions to flow out of you. And 1 more time. Deep breath in. And as you release, relax. Okay. If you've had your eyes closed, please reopen your eyes. And I'm going to present the first rock, gem, or trinket. And again, this week we'll be using my Orgonite. I use this little creature to be able to cleanse and clear the cards. It's very good for clearing energies that no longer serve our highest good. So if you are drawn towards this Orgonite, I'll be pulling cards for you from deck number 1. We will be using a pendulum for deck number 2. If you are drawn towards this pendulum, I will be pulling cards for you from deck number 2. And last but certainly not least is the little selenite ball. And if you are drawn towards the selenite ball, I'll be pulling cards for you from deck number 3. Okay, let's get started. For those of you who selected or were drawn towards the Orgonite this week, I will be pulling cards for you from the Kyle Gray Angels and Ancestors deck. Let's get started. Dominant energy influencing those who selected the Orgonite this week. All right, angels and ancestors, we need a card for the dominant energy this week. Apparently, they don't want to talk to us yet. Must be too early on a Monday morning. It's pretty early. Oh, there we go. All right, we've got our card. The card this week, for those of you that selected the Orgonite, is the Shaolin Master. Be graceful in movement and action. Okay. So going a little bit deeper with this card is indicating that just as a Shaolin Master would, you are being asked to assess a situation before you actually take action. Make sure that you are aware of your surroundings. Make sure that you are aware of what's going on below the surface or around you before you make decisions this week. This involves making decisions not only about your day-to-day, paying attention to when you get in the car in the morning and you're going to drive to work or drive to school or drive to the grocery store, whatever the case may be. Tap into your intuition very briefly and ask yourself, am I supposed to take my regular route or should I take a slightly different route? Is this okay? Tap in and pay attention to everything that's going on around you. Be graceful in movement and action is indicating that we're not meant to be diving into things this week. We're meant to be doing things with intention, okay? A Shaolin Master is one who has very much studied the art of movement, the art of taking action, and the art of tapping into that still small voice within themselves before they actually take action. What's coming up for me intuitively, and I'm being asked to share this with you, is take, for example, a day where you get up and your regular route to work is this street and this street and this street, and you get to work, and this street and this street and this street, and you go home, and this street and this street and this street, and the next day you do the same thing over and over and over again. And for whatever reason, you wake up one day and you go, I'm not meant to take this street. And you go this way, this way, this way, and this way. And yes, it may take you, I don't know, 5 minutes longer to get to work. And then you find out that there was a really serious accident on your regular route. And you would have been held up, you would have been late for work. Worse yet, you could have potentially been the victim in that car accident, okay? And it was because you listened to that small voice in your head that said, hey, don't take your regular route to work today, take a different route, okay? That is the type of thing that we're talking about when the Shaolin Master comes up. So for this week, those of you that selected this little Orgonite this week, pay attention to your still small voice before you make decisions, even decisions as simple as when I go out for my regular walk, should I take the same route or should I go a different way? I don't know. Perhaps instead of walking through the park on your regular route, you walk a different route and you find $50 sitting on the sidewalk. Who knows? But this is the type of energy that's coming up for you guys this week. So pay attention to that. Tap into that still small voice before you start to take your first step in the morning, before you take your first steps throughout the day. Pay attention to that still small voice. Let's have a look at what your shadow energy is this week. The Hermit, retreat and recharge. This makes perfect sense that this is the shadow. So if you're not doing this, then you're having trouble tapping into the energies of the Shaolin Master. Here's the thing. Some people have said, some of this is confusing. Okay. When we talk about you being a part of the Shaolin Master this week, or you being part of the Hermit this week, remember that all is one. Oh, there is a hell of a reflection coming off there. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. I'm just going to hold the card up for the moment. There is this energy that runs through all of us. We are all one. We are all interconnected. And if you think about the butterfly effect, which some people believe in and others don't, but the bottom line is that if a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the world, it does create a ripple in the energies, and it can affect other things. And so can we. Okay. So this week, you guys are being asked to tap into the energy of this Shaolin Master, the many, many masters that have gone before, and the training that the Shaolin Masters have received. You are being asked to tap into that this week. Perfect. But your challenge this week is the Hermit. And the Hermit is all about being able to retreat and recharge, which is indicating that as the shadow energy this week, you may struggle a little bit with this energy of the Hermit. You may struggle with the energy of trying to find that time, carve out that time to be able to retreat and recharge, or to go within yourself, as recommended by this card this week, to tap into that still small voice and that small energy this week. You may struggle with that this week. That's why the Hermit has come forward. Now, that's not to say that it's impossible. What it is saying is that if you've had a regular meditative practice for many months or even many years, this week, for whatever reason, you may be a little bit challenged. You may sit down to do your regular meditation and the phone rings, or your boss calls, or, you're sitting there at lunchtime in your quiet park, ready to sit down and do your quiet meditation and alone time. And all of a sudden, a group of rowdy kids comes in and starts playing around, the park bench where you would normally sit quietly. These are the types of energies to watch for this week that may come up for you. Pay attention to that. And just be reminded that you are being presented with this challenge to your rest and retreat time for a reason. Perhaps it's to teach you to be able to go deeper, or perhaps the challenge is coming up in order to remind you to tap into this energy, the energy of the Shaolin monk, on a regular basis and as a more fluid way of doing it. So what I'm saying is that for some of you, you may believe that the only way to tap into your intuition is to sit in the lotus position, put your hands in Gaya Mudra, and do the Om. And what this is saying is, you can tap into that still small voice. You can tap into the energy of the Shaolin Master anytime. And the more fluid you can make that, the easier it's going to be to tap into it on a daily, regular basis. Okay? All right. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. You may want to watch some of, if you've used timestamps to jump here, you may want to watch some of the other readings. Oftentimes, I do find that we end up with common themes. I haven't pulled the cards for the others yet, so who knows? Okay, moving along. Those of you that selected the pendulum this week, the pendulum does have a little Buddha head on the end here, and there are chakras represented by each of the colors of the beads on this pendulum. So for those of you that selected the pendulum, I will be pulling your cards from the Osho Zen Tarot this week. All right, what dominant energies are influencing those who selected the pendulum this week? Let's see. Ooh, conditioning. All right. Those of you that selected the pendulum this week, you got the conditioning card. This card is the number 15 card in the traditional tarot, the major arcana. And for those of you who are not aware, this card corresponds to the devil. Okay. There are some other people coming into the lobby, so you may hear some sounds in the background as we go about the rest of this video. Okay, for those of you who selected the pendulum this week, your card and major influence this week is the devil. Now, some people may say, oh, and freak out a little bit. What this is really, really saying is that, how do I say this? Many of us believe that there are various influences around us, including, as the cartoons used to portray, the little angels and the little devils sitting on our shoulders. And what this card is saying is that for those of you that have this card this week as your dominant energy, the little devil is going to try to speak more loudly this week. It's going to have this sort of greater push and greater influence on your life this week, perhaps encouraging you to go back to old habits that no longer serve your highest good, that you've been working towards giving up. That's really the message of this card. That's why in the Osho Zen Tarot, the devil is represented by the conditioning card, because it is all about what we are conditioned to believe and all about what we are conditioned to allow into our life or not allow into our life, and the challenges that we face based on our beliefs. So what this card is telling me is that for some of you, your beliefs will be challenged this week. The way that you think that the world works may be challenged. What's coming up for me is that for some of you this week, what this card represents is some past addictive behaviors that no longer serve your highest good, that you've worked really, really hard to get out of your life, and all of a sudden the temptations are going to come back. That could mean the temptation to go back to an ex who no longer serves your highest good, who hasn't served your highest good. That's why that person is an ex. But there may be the temptation to go back to them this week for whatever reason. For those of you that perhaps have struggled with food addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, gambling, whatever the case may be, and you may believe that you have completely overcome those desires to continue to go back. And all of a sudden this week, this card is saying, no, we're going to challenge you a little bit. Yep. So this is a card of temptation, right? You'll notice on the card, you have a lion surrounded by a bunch of lambs. Is the lion conditioned to attack the lambs or not? Its innate instinct in the lion is to eat the lambs, and yet now it's being surrounded by them as if they are friends. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we've got a wolf in sheep's clothing here. And that's what this card is representing for you this week as your dominant energy. So watch for those temptations. Watch for that little devil on your shoulder to say to you, it's okay. Go ahead, have a bag of chips. You know, you've been on this diet. That's kind of what's coming up for me, is that for some of you, this pertains to the New Year's resolutions that some of you made to get into better shape, to lose weight, those types of things. And all of a sudden, the little devil on your shoulder this week is saying, go ahead, have a bag of chips. Go ahead. It's all right. You can skip leg day. You can skip the gym today, right? These are the temptations that are going to come up this week. And so let's have a look at your shadow energy. Your shadow energy this week is postponement. This is the equivalent to the Four of Swords in the traditional tarot. And what this card is telling me is that for some of you this week, you are postponing things, right? So if the little devil comes and sits on your shoulder and says, you can skip going to the gym today, you're postponing the good things that you could have by listening to this devil, okay? If the little devil is encouraging you to eat that bag of chips, but your New Year's resolution was to get into better physical shape, you're postponing the good fitness and the good life that you could have, okay? If you, I don't know, take the example I gave a few minutes ago of the ex and the temptation to phone an ex, okay? What you're actually doing, if you pick up the phone and give in to that temptation, the temptation of the little devil on your shoulder, you are postponing the opportunity for someone better to come into your life. Okay, so that is your message this week. Essentially, what these cards are telling me is that energetically this week, when that little devil comes up and sits on your shoulder and says, temptation, you're being encouraged this week to say, sorry, devil, that's a non-starter. Not playing, not interested in playing, bye-bye. All right. And here's the thing. Forewarned is forearmed, right? So if you know that this little devil is coming up and is going to tempt you this week, then you can be prepared with more resolve. You can be prepared by putting your friend on notice, saying, you know what? I might be tempted to have a bag of chips later this week. Can I phone you? Can we maybe go for a walk instead when I have this temptation that come up? Any of these things, you can prepare to be able to deal with the temptations that may be coming about this week. Okay. All right, moving on to those of you that selected this little selenite ball. I will be pulling cards for you this week from the Sacred Traveler. We had to use the Sacred Traveler cards because I'm traveling. All right. Dominant energy influencing those who selected the selenite ball this week. There are some noises around. You can see housekeeping moving around in the hotel here. So please excuse the background noise. Unfortunately, this is just a fact of traveling, that sometimes things are not always optimal. All right. Let's tap back into the energy of those of you that selected this selenite ball. We need a dominant energy card. All right, come on. Sacred Traveler. I know you want to come out. Oh, no. You do have a card. It does not want to go back in. Voyage of the heart. Love flows through you and to you. Interesting. For those of you that selected this little selenite ball this week, it's interesting excuse me, that we've got the Voyage of the Heart coming out, especially considering there's a particular date on the calendar coming up. Okay, so for me personally, I don't buy into dates on a calendar, dates on a piece of paper that were created hundreds or even thousands of years ago. However, for whatever reason, February 14th happens to be a really important date, and it is coming up a little bit later this month. And so those of you that selected deck number 3 this week, this card really is all about allowing yourself to be open to love, and allow yourself to be open to your heart and the energy of your heart and the direction that you want your heart energy to flow. So just going to go off on a tangent here. For a very, very, very long time, there has been the belief that everything comes from up here, from the brain center. And in reality, that's not true. We have recently discovered that the heart actually has this huge energy around it. It has an energetic field. And when we're thinking law of attraction, and really law of attraction came up kind of about 20 years ago or so, right around the time that the movie The Secret came out, the law of attraction kind of became the, I don't know, the go-to. Everybody jumped on this bandwagon. And everybody started thinking, this is what I want to create. And they thought it and thought it and thought it, and it didn't manifest. And it was only several years later that people realized that the law of attraction doesn't work just with thoughts. The law of attraction is about the connection between what's in our hearts and the energy that our hearts create, our heart's desires create. So if what you are trying to create with your mind is not in alignment with your emotions and your true heart's desires, then it doesn't manifest. And so what this card is saying, for those of you that have this, chose the selenite ball this week, what this card is saying is it's a reminder to connect your thoughts and your desires with what's going on with your heart. Okay? If your mind is telling you that you want to manifest $1 million, and yet your heart doesn't believe that either $1 million is enough, or your heart doesn't believe that you are deserving of $1 million or entitled to $1 million, then guess what? You're not going to be able to manifest it. You have to have heart-brain coherence. It's absolutely essential. And that's what this card is reminding you of this week. If you're not in alignment, if your thoughts are not in alignment with your heart, the manifestation isn't going to come. Okay? That's what you're being reminded of this week. So take a few moments this week. And although for some of you, and I want to say it's a very small percentage, this card is representative of love and Valentine's Day and, you know, creating wonderful things with your partner. For the vast majority of you, That's not the message of this card. The vast majority of you, the message of this card is making sure that your thoughts are in alignment with your heart's desires. Okay, let's have a look at the card that's on the bottom of the deck for you. Uncovering, this is your shadow energy this week. Uncovering treasure. Beneath the surface lies great bounty. Guess what? This makes perfect sense. This is what's being hidden from you. This treasure is being hidden from you if your heart is not in alignment with your thoughts. Okay? Here's the thing. One of the examples that was given to me many years ago, and you've probably heard this before if you've done any work on law of attraction, is if you go into a grocery store and you're looking at the price of everything, thinking, I can't afford this. Oh my God, I can't afford this. Oh my God, I can't afford this. And then you go home and you do a meditation and you go, I am rich. I am powerful. I have lots of money. Are you sending out a solid, narrow-minded, heartfelt message to the universe? No. Because in one way, you're sitting at home going, I'm rich. I have lots of abundance around me. And then you go out into life and your heart is going, you can't afford this. You can't afford that. And you're sending out this mixed message and it's crossed all the way up the line. And what the universe is saying is, well, let's just keep them in the same place. Because the message they're sending out has so many crisscrosses in it, we don't know what they want. So your message this week is make sure that your heart's desires are in alignment with your thoughts. And then you will uncover the treasure. You'll discover it. That's the key. That is the key to this whole big law of attraction thing. Okay. Now, that's not to say that if you've only got $18 left in the bank and you go out to buy dinner, you go out and buy yourself a $29 steak. That would be ridiculous to do that. But if you change your way of thinking, instead of saying, for example, I can't afford that, look at it and change your wording. And this gets into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, but you change the way that you think about it. So instead of saying, I can't afford that, you can look at that steak and say, you know what? That's not in my budget today, but maybe tomorrow, right? So what you're actually doing at that point is you're postponing it. Now, certain practitioners of neuro-linguistic programming will also disagree with what I've just said, but it's still better than saying, I can't afford this. Okay, postponing it temporarily is better than saying I can't. Okay, it's the same thing with if you have a desire to, for example, and many of us do right now, to lose weight. Okay, if you're saying, oh, I got on the scale and I gained 2 more ounces. Oh, I got on the scale, I gained another pound. I can't do this. If you're sending that message out, then this is going to remain your shadow. It will remain dogging you. It will remain at the bottom of the deck. You're not going to get this treasure. But if you change the way that you're thinking about it, and it's like, okay, so I gained a pound. Let's go back and explore, what can I change? I've got this thing. I know I can do this. And really put your heart back into it. Guess what? If your heart is in it, if you believe that you can, voyage of the heart, then the treasure is going to come. Okay? Make sure that you have that heart-brain coherence. That's your message this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next week. And I will be coming to you next week from my home base again. So thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Happy full moon and happy birthday to the Aquarians out there.